Welcome to the Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm Kelly, mom of 2 teenagers, serial entrepreneur, and lover of all things that inspire and empower women. After years of supporting women on their journeys, I'm thrilled to be here to spotlight the powerhouse women who make Fort Mill so special.
And I'm Leah, mom of a very busy toddler and your go-to financial guru for making sense of money and planning for the future. I absolutely love helping women feel confident in their finances. And together, Kelly and I are here to connect you with the stories, tips, and insights that can help you thrive personally and professionally.
Every week, we're inviting you to join us for a quick 20-minute chat with local female business owners, women who are really changing the game here in Fort Mill.
You'll walk away with new ideas, practical advice, and a deeper connection to the community. Whether you're seeking motivation, actionable tips to grow your business, or just a bit of solidarity and the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, you're in the right place.
This is the Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. Let's dive in and meet the incredible women here in our community.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Women of Fort Mill podcast. I am Leah Williams, joined by my amazing co-host, Kelly Hoover, and we're so glad that you joined us today. We have an incredible episode for you, one that we have been so thrilled to air. And we are joined by the amazing Bree Schumacher, who has one of the most incredible stories of transition and life experience, motherhood, being a business owner, all of the things in her journey to, and really what led her to where she's at now and what she does for women. So Bree, thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here with 2 of my favorite girls here in Fort Mill.
Well, and I know before we hopped on, we said like, God, we could spend so much time together, but we really want other women to hear from you, your experience. You know, you've had a lot of success and a lot of unexpected change that really led you to where you're at right now. So could you give us a synopsis of how are you here doing incredible things? What are some of the lessons that you learned and what does that evolution look like?
Yeah, I was running a business, a Spanish school, or Spanish schools for children for 19 years. And I had 100 employees and I was excited about my job and woke up every single morning, like literally for 20 years. It chokes me up to think about with so much love and purpose. And then we found out we had to move from Wisconsin to Charlotte. And I had to make the really difficult decision to sell my beloved business. And at first I was super excited. I was like getting to know living down here. I was like going on field trips and taking pictures and living my best life. And then about 6 months in, I just kind of started to fall apart, honestly. I realized I needed something more. And people would say to me, what do you do? And I would say, well, I used to own this Spanish school. And so I just really was like, you know what? I have to find something new. This can't be my only legacy. You know, I'm in midlife. There's more to me and what I have to offer. I'm not a private person. I'm very much an open book. And so I just started telling everyone around me, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I think I'm having a midlife crisis. You know, I was crying in the parking lot of Lowe's being like, oh my God, and my life is good. But I just felt so lost. And when I started telling other women, they hadn't sold businesses. They hadn't moved across the country. And they were like, yes, I feel the same way. You know, they're saying, what am I going to do next? Or is this all there is? Or my life is full, but it's not fulfilling. And I think so often as women get more towards midlife, for me, I'm looking at more life behind me than in front of me, right? I do think that vision of what's going to happen, what's next becomes really important. And so I tried all sorts of things. I'm not one of those people that's a perfectionist. I make tons of mistakes because I'm a better done than perfect person. I ran a podcast for 2 years called Caesar Midlife. I ran a retreat. I bought condos. I did all sorts of things, just trying to find what was important. And what I kept coming back to were the 2 things I loved most in the world, which is culture and travel and women. And like, how can I combine the 2? In 2023, I launched my first women's trip to Guatemala using the experience I had from running trips with my Spanish schools over 20 years.
I love your story, and I just have to take a pause. And I don't know exactly where on your midlife journey, the crying in the parking lot, that I met you. I never saw that side of you, but Bree and I met her oldest son, my oldest daughter went to the local middle school dance together in 8th grade. And that's how we met. And I knew when Bree walked in the door to take those beloved pictures before they go to the dance that I was like, oh, she's my kind of girl. Like I like her. And I always thank my daughter. I'm like, this was one of the best things about 8th grade is I got my friend Bree out of it. So fast forward several years, but from the outside looking in, seeing you being new to the area, I just was always all inspired. Like, oh, look at this woman. She's doing all the things and so positive. So you may have been going through those things, but on the outside, you still were such a light and during those things. And I think it's such an encouragement for women here in Fort Mill because a lot of women struggle with the things you're speaking about or other things, but you can still be that light, even though you're kind of in that situation where maybe things are a little undecided. Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Right. I just want to recognize that about you because it is something that I think is incredibly unique with you. So let's dive in a little bit more. Here you are. You've gone through this process. You now have kind of landed upon, okay, I love culture. I love to travel. I love these experiences. Will you dig into a little bit more about what inspired you to start down that journey of, okay, I know I love these things. I planned this trip. Now, where do we go from here? And like, really, what was that inspiration that got you to really what you're doing today for women in these incredible
Yeah.
travels that you
So
go on?
I think so often people take trips where they go, to an all inclusive or they go to a beach and they come home a little bit tanner. Maybe they read their book, but they're the same person when they come home, right? And I started taking trips before even my Spanish school that I consider transformational trips. In fact, I would always say change your life in 7 days was kind of my motto because I believe that if you do something off the beaten path, if you are having authentic experiences where you are meeting and spending time with local people of a different culture, you come home and you're not the same person. People have always watched my trips that I do with my sister and stuff and been like, I want to do that. And so I was inspired and also, frankly, a little bit nervous to take a group of women on a trip because back in the day when I used to run my programs, I would make like a Microsoft Word flyer and hand it out. And it was very low key, but I'm like, women have expectations, women that are over 30 have expectations. So I just carefully curated a trip that combined not only like really deep cultural experiences, going to a Mayan women's cooperative, climbing a volcano with a local guide who's been doing it since he was a teenager, going to a village and being able to play with the children. So, but what I did is I took those experiences and then in between made pops of elevated moments. So we go to really incredible restaurants and eat amazing food. And one of the trips coming up, we have like a really high end cocktail making class. I try to do a little bit of both because I think your soul craves those real authentic experiences, but then your midlife self isn't your college backpacking self. You want to stay in a nice hotel. You want to bring your big suitcase. You don't want to have to share a room with a stranger and you want to eat good food. So it's the combination of both. And here's where the magic happens. That was my vision. This first trip comes all strangers. A lot of women come by themselves, right? Which I love. That's like part of my ethos is to make women who come by themselves feel welcome. What I didn't expect was that people were not only so moved by the culture, but by each other. They were inspired by each other and they were hugging and people were crying. And our trip that happened 3 months ago, the WhatsApp chat is still going because friendships are made that very first day. Women saying to me, nobody's seen me like this in years. That was the piece where, again, I feel emotional about because I never went into it being, I'm going to change women's lives. These trips change women's lives.
Well, Bree, I think there's, for all women, but I think especially moms, we're on this life journey of figuring out who we are. And sometimes I think we find ourselves in our 30s, 40s, sometimes feeling like, do I even know myself? Or did I just slide into some roles and take on identities? And I don't even know, if this is really me anymore. Of course, when you're a mom, that's your number one thing. And you have 3 amazing children, which let's be honest, being a mom is a full-time job on its own. I have 4 sisters and I think and they're stay-at-home moms and they love it. And I think for some women that fills them up completely. And for some of us that feel like we want or need a little more, there's sometimes some guilt involved with that, or you feel like I should be happy, I should be content. And like you said, you had a good life. There was nothing wrong, but something felt missing. Do you find that women that come on these trips, do they feel that way where there's almost a sense of guilt of like, I felt like I was missing something in my life. I don't know who I am, and just feeling a little lost and feeling like an experience like this sheds light into what gives me joy? What was the missing link in my life? Do you find that when you talk to these women?
Yeah. And I have so much to say about this. But one of the things I think is really interesting is that there were on one of my last trips, some younger women. So my trip are considered midlife, but everyone takes that very loosely, right? So I had a girl as young as 32, and I have a woman coming that's in her 70s, so they take it very loosely. But I was talking to the younger girls, the girls in their 30s, and I couldn't believe they were the ones that said to me, this is exactly what I needed for the reason that you were saying. They were moms that became moms a little bit later in life, in mid 30s and late 30s, who had been career women. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I can't do everything. Being here and seeing how much it's impacted me and how much better I feel like it's making me be like, no, I need to do this. You're not being selfish. You literally, you need it. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful on these trips is that you come without your hats. You're not a mom. You are a mom, but you're not coming in your mom role. You're not coming in your business owner, employee role. You're coming as your core self. And like you said, Leah, so often by the time we're in our 30s, we've forgotten who that person is. So you come by yourself and you just come alive. What I see happen to women in that regard is the most beautiful thing. And I want to say one more thing about the mom guilt, because there is so much to be said about it. And I think the second we become pregnant, we feel guilty about the way we eat. I remember when I had a baby going to get my hair colored, I'd be like, God, I'm a bad mom. And I would think to myself, do you think there's a dad in the universe that's on the golf course being like, God, I'm a bad dad? No, there's not. There's something ingrained in women, like societal. It's judgment from other women. I think we see that on all the Facebook posts of all the horrible things women say to each other and ourselves. We feel so much guilt all the time. But I always say, let's flip that, because our kids catch what we're doing way more than they catch what we're saying. So if you're like, hey, you can chase your dreams, you can be anything, you can do anything, but they see their moms only serving them and not serving themselves, the lesson you're passing on to your children is to be selfless, right? You want to pass on to your children, take care of you. If you are a mom of a girl, you want your girls to live a life that's just layered, right? Where they can be themselves. If you are a boy mom, you want your son to grow up and be like, yes, go do your thing, to their wives. And I think if we reframe mom guilt and be like, no, we are setting an example, and that example is critical to who our kids are going to be in the future, I think you can feel a little better about it.
Oh man, that's so powerful and so accurate, because our children emulate what they see, and not what we say, but how we act and the things that we do, right? So us making ourselves important, they'll make themselves more important as well. So, oh, good words, Bree. Good words.
I've thought about it a lot.
I know. I love it. I love it. So, all right. So I know there's women right now that are listening to this podcast that are thinking, oh, these trips sound great. So will you just touch on really quickly, who are these trips for? Who is the woman they're thinking like, this sounds like something I want to do? Who are these trips for? And if they're interested, let's talk about how they can get in touch with you to find out all the trips that you have coming up.
I always say these trips aren't for everyone, right? Yes, you need to be a woman over 30. That's the basic. But I think also, are you humble? Are you curious about the world? Are you open-minded? And are you a real champion of women? I want women on these trips that make other women feel welcome, that say, hey, I love your earrings. Come sit with us. Those are the kind of women I want on my trips. I don't want drama or anything like that. I want a circle of women that just love on each other. And as far as finding me, my Facebook is Somewhere Sunny. My Instagram is at Be Somewhere Sunny. And my website, which has all the things, is besomewheresunny.com. And in 2025, I've got lots of new fun trips rolling out. So I would love to see more women in Fort Mill come on these trips, not only to experience the incredible cultures, places, beautiful things, but to really take care of themselves and to make connections with other like-minded, amazing women.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you guys, we will have all that Bree mentioned, how to get in touch with Bree, with her Facebook, her Instagram, also her website. We'll have all of that in the show notes because I know you were probably writing it down really quick, but you can click the show notes. You can also find it on our Instagram and with our newsletter that will be coming out with highlighting more information about Bree. So thank you so much, Bree, for being on today and just sharing your incredible self and these trips. I know I have told her I am 100% ready to go on one of these trips. And I'm excited. I'm excited about, well, I'll always watch them. Every time you're on them, I'm like stalking your Instagram. And you guys make sure you do follow Bree on Instagram because she does an incredible job of really taking you behind the scenes of what is happening when she's on these trips. And even when she's not on one, she's sharing a lot of things that have happened. So you can kind of get a great idea. So thank you for being on. We are so grateful. And you guys, Bree also is so generous that if you mention this podcast and attend one of her trips, she is offering the listeners of Women of Fort Mill podcast $200 off any trip. So we are so thankful for you for that. That is amazing. So make sure that you mention that to her. It'll also be in the show notes. How you can stay more connected is to follow Bree on Instagram, follow her on Facebook, get connected with her newsletter as well. You can log on to her website and she sends out regular newsletters about upcoming trips and about things that are going on. We're just so grateful for that. And if you enjoyed today's episode of the Women of Fort Mill podcast, so love for you to share this on your Instagram, share it with a friend, tag Bree, tag us on Instagram at Women of Fort Mill podcast. And we would love for you to give this episode a 5-star review that helps this episode and future episodes get shared out to the community here in Fort Mill. And we're so grateful. Rate and review us. And then the final thing is follow us on Instagram and make sure that you're connected with our newsletter. It's a simple click of a button, and then you will learn all about these amazing guests, including Bree. You'll learn about their business and learn how you can get connected and stay connected with the incredible women here. So thank you, Bree. Thank you, of course, Leah, for co-hosting. And Bree, we're just so grateful, not only for your friendship, but just your encouragement that you offered us, not only today on the podcast, but through your light and your being somewhere sunny attitude.
Well, thanks to both of you. You're both amazing. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right. We'll see you on another episode of Women of Fort Mill podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. We love bringing you the stories of these incredible women, and we hope you're walking away with a little extra inspiration every week. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps us reach more amazing women like you and grow our supportive community.
And for all the latest updates, tips, and behind-the-scenes fun, make sure to follow us over on Instagram, Women of Fort Mill Podcast, and tag us to share what inspires you each week. Plus, join our email list to stay connected, be the very first to know about the new episodes and fun events. Thanks for being a part of our Fort Mill family. We'll see you next week with another inspiring woman right here at Women of Fort Mill Podcast.